I really love me a good vampire movie. In the trinity of monsters that constantly get revitalized on the silver screen, vampires would definitely be the keystone of the triangular structure used to fit this analogy. And why wouldn't they be? They drink blood, they live forever, they don't show up in mirrors. Some of them, they hate holy things. Also, some of them,
Perhaps that is a conversation for another time.
they turn into bats, they do Shotokan karate, they sparkle in the sun,
This is how we're represented.
and most importantly, they're always polite enough to wait until you've invited them in for dinner. Jokes aside, vampires, in my opinion, are the greatest movie monster, simply because you can just do so much with them. Vampire horror, vampire drama, vampire comedy, vampire thriller, vampire western, and most importantly, vampire action. Nothing hits quite like a good vampire action flick. But unfortunately, there's not a lot to be had. For every Blade, we get 5 underworlds. And for every Blade 2,
Sit down. Damn.
we get a Van Helsing, Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter, or Dracula Untold. All great guilty pleasures, mind you, but none that most would call classics. Over the past decade or two, vampire action films have been relegated to the kind of movie schlock you'd pick up at the $5 bin back before streaming became the new normal. Back smack dab in the middle of the found footage craze emerged a bloody gem of horror and action the likes have never been seen before or since. Its title? Afflicted. Written and directed by its 2 leads, the story tells of Derek, a man whose life was fated to set way too soon. But instead of spending his final months at home, he decided to spend them backpacking through Europe, determined to enjoy every last day to the fullest. While at a show with some friends, Derek meets Audrey, and an apparent one-night stand ensues, leading to the most horrific outcome. When I first watched this movie, I had no idea it was a vampire flick, so the slow realization of what this movie really was just so much fun. Movies like Chronicle, Cloverfield, and Troll Hunter had greatly expanded the boundaries of what could be done with the found footage medium. I remember watching the movie Quarantine when the thought occurred to me, the cameraman isn't safe. Directors like James Cameron try to immerse you in a world with giant IMAX screens and super fancy dancy 3D cameras, but there's something beautifully simple about only seeing what the characters can see. There's no fly-on-the-wall shots from perspectives of a crane, drone, or helicopter. Every shot is from the human vantage point, which makes us, the audience, feel like we're watching with the characters. Bad things can happen to the person holding the camera, so theoretically bad things can happen to us. We're not just watching the roller coaster, we're on it. And the roller coaster ride Afflicted provides, in my opinion, is one of a kind. On a featherweight budget of $318,000, Afflicted punches on the class of a heavyweight. With its gnarly gore and makeup effects as well as its hardcore Henry-like action, I can truly say this is the only film that will let you know what it's like to be a vampire, running for your life at super speed from the police, outside, on a particularly sunny day. From the skin-popping pain to the adrenaline rush of a newly born apex predator trying to keep his killer instinct in check, to the impending dread that draining humans of their life juice might have to be done to prevent something even worse. This movie truly does everything you want from a thingy flick, and maybe even a few things you didn't know you wanted. This movie really explores the idea of trading one curse for another, and how amazing it would feel to have a second lease on life along with the fact that you have superpowers. There's such a sense of wonder and excitement when watching them experiment with Derek's newfound abilities.
I am at 60 kilometers an hour!
And honestly, I just found it to be a rare watch to see vampires look cool doing superhuman things. whether it be the cheesy running and jumping in Twilight or the corny flying in Lost Boys. Few films I've seen successfully capture the visceral language of movement that has been described in so many books. Even True Blood, a show produced on one of the most prestigious channels of all time, couldn't escape the cliché, silly hissing, and lame hover fight scenes. The film Day Shift, starring Jamie Foxx, used contortionists to brilliant effect. The seemingly unnatural ways their bodies twisted and distorted really lent to the idea of these creatures being of the supernatural. And It, being directed by veteran stuntman stunt coordinator, second unit director, fourth degree Taekwondo black belt, probably grandmaster by now, and champion J.J. Perry, it only made sense that a heavy focus on the specificity of vampire movement was made paramount when creating the film's wildly creative action scenes. But outside of this film, the Blade trilogy, more specifically Blade 2, movies and television tend to lean on what's been done before. The vampire shorthand, if you will. Most of the time, the limitations on what vampires can and can't do is due to budgetary restrictions, unless of course it's animated. For obvious reasons, animation is the medium that truly understands the assignment. Now, you'd think it'd be easy for live action these days given what they can do with superheroes. But alas, the bar has only been raised a handful of times in a handful of movies in the past decade. But why? Maybe it's romance? Now hear me out here. I don't think any other monster in fiction has as strong a connection to the genre of romance as vampires. Which makes sense given the seemingly endless number of vampire romance novels appearing on the shelves of Barnes & Nobles every other week. And despite what some guys may protest, the weight of one's bench press is never the point of a woman's impress. It's riz, it's romance, it's seduction. The ladies don't care how silly Edward looks when he's running. They care about the attention he gives the blank canvas on which they may imprint themselves. Now, while I wouldn't call Derek in Afflicted a blank canvas, the movie does allow you to imprint on him in scenes where he has a camera strapped to his chest. Bet you're wondering how I was going to bring this all back to Afflicted. Well, ta-da! Now, all that being said, there's not a lot else I can say about this movie without spoiling it. It's bloody, it's great, and if you love vampires, you should definitely see it.